Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We hope you guys had a wonderful New Year and Christmas holiday break. I know we are just coming off of our solid time off last little while. I know I'm coming up to the end of 2 weeks of holidays, so it's been pretty solid. We just wanted to do a quick little forward on what we have in store for you all in 2023. It's going to be a big year here for the Trident Wargaming channel. Lots of little tweaks, lots of little fine tuning. We're going to be actually starting to drop our content instead of at 7 a.m. It'll be more at 10. We find just that's when most of the hits are coming in, which is great. It's just get to sleep in a little bit more and schedule things later, so it's easier to share and interact with you all, which is nice. And then as far as what we're going to be doing during the week for posts is, this year is a little bit different. We're going to be going back to our monthly challenges where you pledge a project or something for the month and work on it consistently. We're each going to be pledging our own systems that we're going to be working on, which allows us to really concentrate on that current project so we don't suffer from that sweet hobby ADD and basically get it all done. We find when we did it back in 2020, that was really successful for us. So we want to try and rekindle that fire and really show how much you can get done.
For sure. Yeah, and also with that, we are changing up our, our platform a little bit with what we'll be concentrating on. We have our strong 3 that we're doing. Of course, our Horus Heresy, we will be continuing to do that. That is our strongest series, plus our bolt action as well. And then we also have our 40K as well. So, and that involves all the other little games and what other game systems that are kind of incorporated in those universes and game systems too, right? So those will be our mainstays that we concentrate on, and you'll of course see what we're working on and all our projects and stuff like that too for those systems. So it should be pretty good. It lets us concentrate, like Bill said, month to month on projects that we definitely want to get completed and get more of them completed to show you guys as well. I guess going further too, we'll obviously have a lot more events happening as well. So you'll see lots of that stuff. I won't go into too many details with that right now, but essentially, we're really, like Bill said, we're focusing in, dialing in that zone of stuff that we're going to concentrate on. And then the other thing is, I know we've talked about doing a little bit more some like the unboxings and whatnot.
Yeah. So
we still got to get a little bit of a game plan for that, but you will definitely still continue to see that stuff too. So
yeah, Sprue and Review will be ramping up pretty strong. I know I've got a few kits, about 5 of them that I'm sitting on that we want to work on as well, which helps me get my stuff built and also provide content for you guys. And I feel the Sprue and Review is actually pretty beneficial for a lot for new players, especially when they're jumping in, they're not really sure about some of the options. And I'm going to try and take it a notch further to show any easy ways to magnetize and being able to swap out options, which should help with some of the decision making. So you don't have to glue it in and, is this going to be the only option I want? I'll show you guys how to do magnetizing and make it super easy.
Yeah. And then of course with like the bolt action portion, is I have a majority of the kits. You'll see more of it come out. Any new kits that come out, you'll see. So it'll definitely be good times, a lot of fun. We definitely got a good, strong game plan for this year and going forward. So, I don't know if there's anything else that we need to drop?
That's kind of the real big ones. Just keep interacting on the socials, or keep an eye out on the socials. You'll get all our event news, all the stuff that's coming out. We'll be, keeping consistent weekly content for you, dropping as per usual, so nothing's changing there. The big thing that is new is we actually now have a Patreon platform, which is essentially just a general support platform. We might end up seeing where that goes and growing it to something better and bigger as we go, which might be more exclusive. But for right now, essentially all it's doing is allowing you to support the channel. We get to buy a coffee on you, right? Or a brew. And basically, a big thanks for your support. Anything that you do that helps the channel and helps us provide the content and keep things rolling is obviously much appreciated. As far as that goes, any reviews as well. If you're able to leave a review on the podcast, on our Facebook page, that also helps us a lot. It helps with just exposure and helps us with our reach, which is nice. So you'll see a bunch of new stuff kind of coming out. Everything's been updated on our Instagram page and Facebook, so just keep an eye out for that. And that's really about it. For me, I don't really have a whole lot else. This month is my get prepped for LVO. That's kind of my my pledge this month. It's taking my army that I painted and built with 3.5 weeks from a tabletop standard to a above tabletop standard. So now we're going to be cutting in all the fine details. We're going to be doing all edge highlighting, stuff like that. I'll have lots of pictures of side-by-side comparisons. And I feel if you break these projects up into little baby steps like this, it helps you achieve a higher standard quicker, because at least you got your army on the board. It's ready. Now you can take time and start to fine-tune it and tweak it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And as Bill's doing that, I'll be continuing working on bolt action terrain and whatnot, getting ready for our first event of the year. That will be in February. Our Warzone Winterfront. So that's actually almost all sold out. So if you haven't gotten your tickets for the bolt action part of it, hit us up.
Exactly.
I know 40K is sold out. So we'll be working on that. I'll be getting stuff done for that. A couple of tables, a few more tables. And it'll be a great start to the year for events. And other than that, I think that's about it from my side.
Awesome.
So as we wrap this up, we'll be jumping into our current episode, and it's a bolt action episode, so you'll see my face on the screen again. So thanks a lot, guys. Don't forget, build it, paint it, play it, and we'll see you on the tabletop.
Catch you later.
Everyone, welcome back to our 2023 first episode of Trident Wargaming Podcast. Today, you got your hosts. I'm Andy, and this is my co-host, Bill.
How's it going?
Good. Yourself?
It's going pretty good.
Excellent.
Pretty good.
Excellent. So, first episode of the year, we're rolling, and this one is going to be about some bolt action.
Yep.
So, we've had a lot of games over the holidays and whatnot and last month, so some good little experiences and games and kind of events happening. But today's episode, we're kind of going to be talking about a little bit of some of our plans for bolt action, like army wise and stuff, plus why Bill hates like MMGs.
I hate MMG teams. Ever so just recently though, yeah.
We'll jump into that. Hobby wise, kind of status quo, I think, for both of us. Really just working on, like for myself, for some terrain for the upcoming event in February. Also the Slow Grow army for end of January. So, and Bill, yourself?
Well, I pretty much have been kind of gathering all my my German army for Slow Grow.
Mm-hmm.
getting that all kind of ready. I'll be jumping into that come February, which will be a pretty rapid build and paint kind of scenario. And then just currently, it's just pretty much been a lot of cleanup over the holidays, getting finish up my LV fist.
Nice. Yeah, always the grind, always the probably the pressure before the event, and Bill specializes in that, where that's where he gets most stuff done, I would say.
Yep. Yeah, it's the way.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It does work well. I mean, we've seen it on all accounts with a lot of people in the community and even our own personal group kind of thing. So, so like your army that you're looking at to start playing, you decide to go with Germans.
Yep.
Okay. I know you recently picked up or going to be picking up a Grenadier box set.
This is true.
Right. So
another one, I should say.
Another one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's your ideas like on the army, starting a new army, considering that you've now have, gotten the grasp of the game, you have your Americans, and you were saying that you kind of wanted a slightly different army, different feel to how you want to play or go about them, right? So yeah, give me like a little rundown of what you kind of have in your mindset. And
I kind of wanted to have something a little bit more mobile than my American force. I have, do their thing, but I do have an amount of. I got 2 MMG, which they do their job, but they're very fragile. The mortar team also is fragile. I just find being able to get, taken out with a sniper shot and just removed it bites. It's
Right.
it's not good, right? So you don't get that what feels like a valued like return. Whereas I think the way I'm playing my Americans is also straight GI, so I'm not taking LMGs and stuff in the squad. Whereas the Germans, I can actually take squads which specialize in that.
Mm-hmm.
You can also be rocking kind of Panzerfaust. Like you get a kind of a mixed bag of LMG, anti, not to mention just regular rifles, which feels like it could be a really good jack of all trade squad. And if I'm running multiple, now I'm starting to kind of double down on the benefits, right?
Right. Oh, it sounds good. Yeah, there's the German army has a lot of options for sure. They definitely have, a lot of different units. One thing is they're kind of a more elite class of units right off the bat, especially, just the beginning of the war, mid-war, all the way up until the late, until you get to like Berlin. But there's lots of options from just your LMGs in the squads to like multiple LMGs. You also have pioneer squads, which are like your engineering squads with flamers and whatnot. And of course you have like, I'm going to say almost in every campaign book there is out there, there's probably majority of it's Germans, right? There's some kind of German unit in there somewhere. So if you find something you might like, you might want to use that. There is different rules too for your MMGs, right? Not just simply just an MMG team. They do have another team, I can't remember what it was, but I've seen some guy use it where there's actually a pen value to the MMG team.
Really?
It's like a heavier machine gun.
Oh, okay.
So there is that, but again, there's tons of options. So, if you are planning on like playing a German force, there's lots you can do, from grenadiers to like an early here infantry unit, or a mobile with lots of transports, and of course they have some armored transports, right? 7+ with machine guns on them too. So I know how you feel on transports as well. They can be a little pricey. But there is a lot of other vehicles, like a Kubelwagen, which is kind of like a Jeep for them. Same thing. You can put multiple machine guns. There's one unit. I think it takes the place of your armored car, but it's a motorcycle with sidecar that has an MMG.
Oh yeah.
Right. Jordan's actually used that quite a bit, and
those look pretty cool.
And it has recce. So not only are you zipping around with this machine gun, which you're getting an extra shot for being a German, right? Hitler's buzzsaw. But you also have recce. So I mean, if you get targeted by a sniper, well, you can just book it, right? Stuff like that. So, and then of course, if you're going Grenadiers, you have the assault rifle option as well, right? Assault rifles, Panzerfaust, I believe. And then of course there might be some other special style units that allows you multiple of those options in your units.
Yeah.
So are you kind of going, like, are you going to go reg force? Are you thinking going veterans? Do you think you're going to add like, maybe an SS unit in there or something like that?
I'd probably throw at least one squad in there just for just for fun. Right? Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
they're everywhere, right? So try and make them look really cool. The Waffen SS squads have a lot of cool stuff in them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a very strong mixed bag. So
yeah, and we've seen it across a lot of the players that play. Right now is kind of the DAC, the Desert Forces for the Germans, is kind of popular right now. Even myself included. I'm doing one as well. But yeah, from the options, like there's so many different squads, and this kind of goes across majority of armies.
Yeah.
But as for the Germans, there's probably way more than anybody else. So any observers? You thinking of observers at all?
I haven't gone that deep into it, other than just kind of looking at squads of really want to make sure I'm trying to capitalize on the LMGs and Panzerfaust if I can. So right,
which is a solid idea for an army, especially in the game consistent of infantry. It's an infantry game, right? The one nice thing too, though, is like if you do decide to look at armor, the Panzers themselves, with their allotment of MMGs, is quite effective. So and you'll get some decent shots just because of that extra +1 on how many shots you get. I mean, you've seen it when we played. We played at the last event there in Calgary, Gentleman's War. I mean, my Panzer III did some work against your infantry, right? So it's definitely something to consider. But the nice thing with the German army is they have so many pieces of equipment that can deal with armor, right? Tanks, obviously, that you don't necessarily need to have a tank yourself, right? So that's a good little turning point for the German forces. So, and you're, because I know you kind of based your Americans more of like towards the Italian kind of theater, I believe, right? I'm assuming you're probably going to keep this kind of in that same theater.
Pretty much. The main goal was to try and have the force be able to be deployed against my Americans, like in a setting where they're very similarly based. The color schemes will kind of match and kind of complement each other.
Nice.
I can't remember the name of that particular camo that we were talking about, how I'm going to spray the tanks. It's more like kind of Eastern Front. I wish I could actually find the name of it.
Not sure if that was, I can't remember the name either, but I don't even know if it was like a fall kind of camo or not.
Yeah, it's pretty much that off, what is it? That kind of autumn yellow and then they're sprayed like green and orange and even sometimes black and like striping effects over the tank chassis and hull. It's, I can't remember, it has a specific name. If you know what, if you're listening and you're screaming, type it in the comments so I don't forget next. How embarrassing, right? So
It's all good. I'm sure some.
But it looks cool, yeah. And that's kind of the thing with the whole force. I really want to try and paint something that's going to be a lot of fun, especially with those pretty sweet tanks that I've got. I've got Panzer 3, 4, and then I've got a Panzer or a Tiger 1 early production. So it's three of the nice tanks to play around. That 88 as well, which is that Tamiya kit.
Right.
So that should be kind of sweet to put together and put on the table, right? Like,
that's right.
It should be, yeah.
And yeah, because you went, Bill's gone with the larger scale for his tanks.
Yeah, they're 148 Tamiya.
Yeah, so which they look really good, especially with his paint job that he's done for his Americans. It's interesting to see the size on that too, right? For model wise, really doesn't have like a huge impact in game, just because you usually only have one, right? So
yeah,
it's really good. It's a nice looking kit, and I'm sure the German kits want to see what that Tiger looks like. It'll be pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, I think it'll be pretty imposing on the table, right? That centerpiece, for sure. Not to mention it gobbles up 30-year Army.
It's big. It's really big.
So
yeah. So, and I know, and it's funny we mentioned the Tiger because I know a lot of guys. Well, why would you take a Tiger? Why don't you just take a Panzer IV? It's this way cheaper. Does the same thing, similarly, right? But you also got to remember in this game, it's if you're playing it for competition or whatever for tournaments, sure, you can think that way kind of thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, your game, if you like a Tiger tank because you love the look of it, it's your favorite tank, do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's essentially, I think, one of the best things is that I'm not running it for points efficiency.
Yeah. I'm
running it for cool factor, and it's a fucking Tiger.
Yeah. And even that army itself, even if you take it as a regular force, it's still going to be very elite. It's still going to have a lot of options. It's still going to be tough to take out, especially if you're using cover. There's always some kind of hard cover majority of the time around somewhere. So it's definitely, it's an expensive force that I find, because I've been playing Germans probably for the last 6 months or so, or if not more. And I find I'm always outnumbered. So the minute you kind of get to that point where you have this big point sink, you're going to find that even more. So, as you're looking through units, obviously, you're going to pick out what you like. And then, of course, for like taking objectives and stuff too, like I try to, with my regular force, I try to have at least 3 units and as close as full strength as possibly that I can for Germans. Just because you don't have a 12-man squad that you got for free like the Soviets that you can just throw into the fray, right?
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, no doubt. I see the value in doing the full man squad.
Yeah, especially with
They're
some
definitely
armies.
worth it.
Your Americans for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing too is the Germans definitely need to utilize their Hitler's buzzsaw rule.
Yeah.
So for my DAC army, I have the Schützen squads, which they get 2 LMGs in their units, but they're only 8-man strong units. So I have to be very careful with them that I'm not taking too many hits, right?
Yeah.
So I take those. I have 3 units like that. So there's multiple machine guns there. The tank has multiple machine guns. If I take a transport, it has a machine gun. So it's just this big weathering storm of shots happening. But that's my thing for them, right?
Yeah.
With myself, like taking the tank, it eats up points. But there might be options for putting in more infantry, which might be a better idea, and then take some kind of anti-tank. Right.
Well, it's even these, like, even the bikes, or sorry, even just with kind of focusing on those MMG teams, like what kind of spurred the dislike is how many points that they cost. Considering they're 65 points when you're running vet, which you will, which just seems to be better in my opinion. But it's the lack of mobility. We were talking earlier, you know, I can take a Jeep with an MMG for 33 points. And it's like, well, shoot, I can have two for the price of that one bet squad. And they're still ripping around. They're mobile. And they're, which definitely puts pressure on the enemy.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of fun. So it's just, I would definitely like to try and focus on some of the mobile aspects, like with the Germans. That bike squad's definitely an idea. I think it'd be cool just to have, right, run stuff down.
No, definitely.
Yeah, it'll
like again.
be good.
There's lots of options. There's, especially for all the different armies, there's tons of options. So there might be something else that you'd like to take. I know with myself, I always do take an MMG team, and I'm torn between, you know, yes, I do want to take them, and no, you know, they kind of get stuck in a spot, right? So it's either, and most of you guys already know how it works, is those fixed teams, they tend to get just sniped out. Take out the main target, and the whole unit's wiped. So essentially you lose that order dice and those points, you know, kind of right off the bat if it's a juicy enough target. Or you end up putting it in a position where you try to keep it away from the enemy sniper, but then as you're deploying, sometimes what happens is your line of sight to things isn't so good, right? I mean, I've had it in multiple games where I've had my MMG sitting in the back line, kind of in the corner spot, trying to create a kill zone for itself to prevent the enemy from coming through, which it did. So that's a benefit for it. But when there's multiple units coming down that corridor and you can only really pump so many shots into one, and there's, you know, all the modifiers, of course, you know, it's like, well, I got to kind of reposition this unit to get back to my main force, otherwise I'm going to get quite overrun on this side. So you don't end up shooting anyways. So like, yeah, mobile MMG doing that same kind of task.
Yeah,
put that
it's
Jeep,
nice.
Put that Jeep on a road, you know, or on a road with some cover, like right beside the building kind of thing or whatever. You know, you're going to get cover. You still got an angle. And then if you need to get the hell out of there, if you're on a road, well, you're a Jeep. So boom, there you go, gone, right? You caught up to your other force. And then on top of that, you move your unit, you're still able to shoot if you got targets.
Yeah.
Right? You just can't go in buildings. So,
which is fine. It's, yeah, being able to close that gap to take some of the cover away. I feel like fucking BattleTech. We're just trying to. It'll be a little bit better, right? You're trying to really maximize the effectiveness of that squad. So that'll kind of be fun to test out and just play test, right?
And it's a little different between your two armies, because like your Americans, your regular GI infantry, they don't get light machine guns. They get bars instead, right?
Yeah.
Whereas airborne will get some light machine guns, I believe, and I believe the Marines get them as well. You know, so that's a little bit of a different play style for that, where you have the other option of taking, 3 machine guns for like one choice?
Yeah. That's like the Americans' shtick.
Yeah. So sure, you can put all three of those MMGs on one section and just hold that down. So I mean, there is that option, but I don't know how many points is that per machine gun.
They're 50 or 65.
50 or 65, right? So
Yeah. So it's all kind of...
It's a fair bit of points for the three that are just going to be standing there kind of doing their thing. So I guess I can see, and then if you're looking at Germans, then obviously they get one extra shot. There's a lot more options for it. So it kind of depends on your army, depends on how you weigh it out for what you like your unit to be able to actually do, right?
Yeah.
So in a competitive setting, that's definitely a way of kind of looking at it, kind of thinking about how effective is my unit going to be for my army to do as best as the army can do in this event, this tournament, right?
Yeah.
Because like guys going to LVO, actually right away here, it's no different than any other game. You're trying to almost in a sense optimize your army, right? So like, as an example, your American force, you've kind of optimized it to like how you want to play it, right?
Yeah.
Very aggressive. Your tanks go up, your tank goes up hard. It's pretty close to the front line, doing damage, making some cover for your units, laying down a lot of firepower just from moving and shooting. And then now with your Germans, you're going to see that it's going to be a little different. There's going to be,
for sure,
different things happening, right? So yeah, when you start looking at units like that, and then I know everybody has said something about the MMG team in general. It needs something more, right? Like, I don't know this is obviously, wishful thinking, but if they were to give an MMG team the extra rule of anytime it shoots, it gives suppression, which is an extra pin. So instead of one pin, it's 2 pins. Would it be worth it? And that's 2 pins?
That seems like it'd be better.
That's pretty good. Two pins compared to 1 is pretty good. So it's still only going to be its regular shots. You know what I mean? Like, guys can do that, like house ruling if they really wanted to, that kind of, see how it works out. It's an interesting idea, right? But again, it's not an official rule, obviously. So
yeah, I guess that's the big question is, what would you do to MMGs? Like you've said here now, give them the suppression thing. But like people listening, what would you do to make MMG feel better for the points?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be an effective way?
Yeah,
to make them stay the same points, but just give them that little extra oomph where they feel better.
Yeah, they need a boost of some sort. Like you have all your different teams and all your different weapons and whatnot, and it's actually, like I think Jason mentioned this before. It's almost not worth taking an MMG team, yet taking 2 LMG teams in one squad for 40 points.
Yeah,
it's cheaper, and you get more shots, and you're protected by the unit. So,
yeah.
But as for MMGs, like what to make it better, there's, like I said, the suppression. I don't know.
Even if they couldn't be one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, he killed your gunner. Well, that's fine. There's 2 other guys that could pick up the gun. Make it -1 to shooting.
Yeah.
Something, right?
So that's the question that kind of goes to. So is it a problem with the machine gun team or the fixed teams, or is it a problem with the sniper rule? Right.
I don't think scoping in is an issue. I think that's like very thematic. I just think it's the way probably the fixed team rule is. If you target the
weapon
gun, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's very true. I know that has been brought up a couple times too. People don't really like that rule itself, because it is essentially, it's kind of shitty when you lose it that way, I guess.
Well, you could even say, okay, if you lose, If you lose the gunner, it could even be you only get to fire a maximum of 3 dice. Because the loader's like, oh shit, rolling over, grabbing the gun and starting to let it rip. But that's shown in the reduced firepower. Like something, right? It would make it not overpowered to the point where it was too much, I don't think.
Yeah.
3 dice is only 3.
That's true. Yeah,
So.
slow down on the firing or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's tough to really get around some of the rules for that, especially when you're looking at snipers too. But I mean, I really like the suppression thing. It makes them more of a threat. Definitely more of a threat. Would it be, extra shots? Like not just the regular 5 shots that they would get, but maybe boost that up a little bit more? Maybe 2 more shots extra? Could be a thing. Now all of a sudden, the only problem with that is like we're looking at an individual team, but as soon as you put it on a tank, it's like, okay, well, we just boosted machine guns up to like 7 shots instead of 5 shots normally.
Yeah. So that might not be the best way, because then now Hitler's Buzzsaw, you get 8.
Exactly.
It gets crazy.
Yeah.
It gets crazy.
So
something with survivability would be nice. I know it's the wish list, but it's always cool to kind of talk about and see.
But there's also there's so many theater books and theater units and stuff like that we haven't even really explored.
No.
There might be some different rules with certain things, or maybe they can start an ambush, or some kind of thing like that, so they can be in hidden cover right off the bat kind of thing, no matter what. So there's more modifiers to them, but it always comes down to, as well as the sniper as well, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's just, I guess that's the way it is for ruling. But yeah, MMGs, they're kind of a pickle. You don't want to take them as inexperienced, because then they're not doing work. You take them as veteran, they start costing more. Yes, they are a little bit more, survivable. You still need 5s to wound them, so that might be a thing. But essentially, it still just takes 1 shot.
That lucky bullshit shot.
Yeah, exactly. Or takes the 1 shot, or there's other units that have damage bonus that can really rip into them. But you definitely have to put them in cover of some sorts, regardless if there's a sniper or not. Like you need to put them in cover no matter what to get that bonus, because the last thing you want to do is start just taking too many hits on them, and then they're kind of useless, right? So yeah,
well, it's even besides just sorry to cut you up. Even besides the sniper, you could essentially do an exceptional.
Yeah, exactly.
To kill him too, right? So that's what there's got to be something better than.
And that's what I'm saying, where you have you take an anti-tank gun, right? Not an artillery piece, but like an anti-tank rifle that gets +1 bonus to damage. If he scores a lucky exceptional damage on you, he's getting +1 to wound you. Anyways, so if you're a regular, he'll need 3s. If you're a veteran, 4s.
Yeah.
So yeah, hard to say. Let us know, I guess, what you guys think about that. Do you guys take MMG teams? How many do you take? Would you rather take the mobile MMG like Bill has mentioned? And also tanks, really. There's also a little tricky thing with tanks too. If you take that pintle mounted MMG, careful for that open topped, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject, but
yeah. Take the pintle mount MMG, and if they have a
if there's a mortar, just
you wasted 10 points. Too bad.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
Yeah.
It's and for the record, as a American player, I only ever ran 2 MMG teams. I had some restraint. Okay, it wasn't that guy, but for a little bit of harder games, I'd like to 3 squads, and then take all the late war vet units with double bars and stuff, because it's pretty spicy. Throw a lot of firepower out.
Definitely.
A lot of firepower.
So all this talk about MMGs and armies and building stuff for armies. With this year, of course, we're wanting to do more events for bolt action as well. Our first one happening in February, of course. We have the slow grow happening end of this month, like I mentioned earlier. For any suggestions for any new players who are jumping into the system or maybe starting in, because I know we have a couple new guys who are coming into the fold, into the community, trying different armies out, even experimenting with different armies and or theater lists for just games in general. But, starting off at 500 points as we're jumping into the systems, into the slow grow. And then on top of that, we have the event happening at the end of the February there. Any suggestions or any ideas of, that you can give to players as they're kind of going into this, being it either newer players or experienced players, trying new armies, just from what you can see, Bill, as a gamer yourself and with multiple systems.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can share with the guys about bolt action, how to kind of help guys get through it or go into it?
Honestly, I think the best way jumping in, like to figure out your army and how you want to play, once you actually nail down a nation or a faction, would honestly find out, and you already know this if you've played other tabletop games, but find out what your playstyle is.
Right.
If you're shooty or if you're a little more hand-to-hand aggressive, you can find units that will help you achieve that playstyle in the book and play what you like to play. Essentially, that's going to lean to your playstyle and just kind of have fun with it. I wouldn't worry so much about how good your unit is or how it'll compare. It's more, are you liking the way your army's coming out? Right? Like, you can do the little extra things. Like, I research in 19 based my Americans off of, and I'll do the same pretty much with my Germans. This is the setting, this is kind of where I'm going to base it, and just go for what's fun, what you be, there on that time. You can even read up some, lore, like actual historical lore, and find out, base your army around a unit or a specific company. And there's so many different things to do. It's just definitely go for what you like, though. That's the biggest thing.
Nice.
Especially with jumping in. So
yeah, especially starting off with jumping into the game, and that's what the slow grow is all about, is trying out the army, using and building and playing the units that you like, and then once you get to that large amount of points, you can always tweak, you can always make adjustments, you can always add something else, right? And it's nice. Go ahead, Bill.
It is. Well, the nice part about slow grow too, and I know, like, I've been feeling it with, other systems that we've been doing it. Don't be afraid to experiment with new things, because slow grow is not about winning. It's just about learning the mechanics, learning your new army. So let's be real, we're all going to kind of make mistakes as we go and fumble our way through the new books and stuff like that. But it's about everyone getting on the same page. Big group, which is great for rule interaction, because the more people that are playing at one time, if you're coming out for the slow grow days and stuff, the more people will all kind of stumble onto the certain rules together, and when it comes up, more people are aware of it, and now it helps create like playing games,
right?
Which I've noticed a lot. But yeah, playing units that you normally wouldn't play is also fun. If you have them, you may as well play them and just test out what they do. See if you actually like them. Try different tank variants, right? Like it's you could have a lot of fun with it.
No, that's some solid advice right there, definitely. And then that kind of goes, in a sense, once you kind of get that going like that, you know, you can really have a good sense of what you want to take into like an event or a tournament, right? It all leads into that kind of afterwards. You get some experience, you figure out your army. Maybe it's not even the army you want to play anymore, but it's figuring that out. And then once you get to that level, and obviously the being comfortable with the community as well and the other players, and now you know your meta of the group and whatnot, then you can go into trying to build some of those kind of more solid lists that you want to play and have those really good tight games against your opponents, right? And that's where it's at for like ultimate, you know, in a sense. I'm sure some guys will probably heckle me about it, but like the fun factor, you know, of the satisfaction of having that super tight, close game with an opponent. Not saying, you know, like the whack kind of thing, but just a solid game. You know, we've had some just recently in another system a couple times here, and really it's satisfying. It's really satisfying at the end of the day when you've had games like that. So, you know, and don't be afraid to, when you're playing opponents in events or in tournaments, to really utilize the opponent's knowledge of the game as well, after the fact kind of thing. Once, you know, ask questions, talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
What do you think I can improve on my army with? We get that all the time, but not everybody does do that, right? So
That's, yeah, to echo that point, that's one of the best ways to kind of and adapt and change and hone your play style and just evolve your play style is having those after game chats, because there might be a thing would say, hey, could I have done differently? It's like, well, okay, you know what happened is I think the battle turned on this particular point.
Yeah.
And this is what I think. And you're like, yeah, you know what? Okay, I agree. I made a mistake there. But you've learned, right? Every game you lose, you're going to learn something, or if you do. That's where I do my most learning. So, but the biggest thing is you got to play the games to be able to get that experience of how the army's going to work. That's the biggest thing, right? You can list craft as much as you want, but you have to get the games in to know how the list is going to work. And you're probably going to need 10 games solid with that list to know it, it inside and out, right? Like there's one thing to like make a list on paper, and then there's another thing, like I challenge you, play 10 games with the same army. Yeah. And you'll probably get to know that army very well, where you know where its shortcomings are, you know where you can adjust and fix things you want to, right? It's just, yeah, 10 games I think would give you a really good perspective of how your army plays, and play different people, obviously. Yeah, you can really experiment.
And as you get more progression and experience with your army, you'll start to see how you like to play it, right? Because like your same army in somebody else's hands will definitely be played differently. But you find your style and what you find you can do that's effective in the game. Because I know, like in like Heresy, we've hammered out armies and played armies, and I remember struggling with one army, and Bill helped me with it, and then I pretty much took that army and kept on playing it, and I think I played it the same with maybe some minor tweaks of it for like a good year to really hone the experience and knowledge and how to play that army, and it made me a better player, right? You know, was I winning all the time? No. Was I winning a little bit more than usual? Yes. Were my games closer? 100%. And had some really good moments, and even in events, like in Vegas, had some really, really strong moments for myself with my army, you know, just close scores or close battles. That's what it's all about, right? And of course, the enjoyment level of playing that army that you've put in your time, you've painted, you've converted, you worked on, you put it on display, you've brought it out, and you're just happy seeing it on the board playing it. So yeah. So as for like advice for new players, I think we did hammer that a bit for just the enjoyment level and play what you want to play kind of thing, right? So so that's good. It's good. And tournaments is a whole other level, especially with bolt action, because it doesn't, I don't know. In any game, there is kind of the competitive side of things for tournaments. But what I'm finding with bolt action is most armies have something or some unit that might be a little bit more optimized or better than what other armies might have or specific to them, right? So if it's open to that kind of, competitiveness, you're fine. Like, you're going to be okay. You might have guys who kind of know the ins and outs of certain units and rules, but that's all going to come with experience. Everybody has a machine gun. Everybody has a rifle. Some armies have better anti-tank than other armies, but it's also on like era level, right? So if you're going into events like that for competitiveness, I don't think you have to worry too much about just getting blown out of the water, because there's usually, I don't think I've seen it yet where I've been wiped off the table, right? Like, there's no turn 2 being wiped off the table kind of thing. So it's a different game. It essentially is. So if you're coming in from a different system, and you're used to that, it's a little different. So
I think to dial it into is, you're always going to get that competitiveness if you have like podium style finish pricing.
That is true.
Right. If everyone gets the, participation dice bag swag, and, everyone's having a good time, some hooting and hollering, and it's random draws, stomped or got stomped or whatever happens, it doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. Everyone's rolling dice, a good time, and it's more lighthearted feeling, right? But as soon as it's like, hey, you want to get that prize for best general? Oh shit! Well, now
game on. Yeah.
Now I'm going for it, right? Because I want the bragging rights.
Yeah.
So it depends how you do it, but that's the nature of dice games.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, no, it's good. Definitely a lot of options with bolt action. And then on top of that, down the road, there'll be some K-47 stuff happening too, which is very similar to bolt action. It's just a different edition. It's the same idea. If you're jumping into bolt action, you're preferring that Weird War K-47, it's essentially the same stuff as we talked here. So
yeah, just bolt action with Wolfenstein sprinkled on.
Exactly. So that'll be good, and we'll probably be taking a look at a little bit of that this year too, as haven't really looked into it previous years, as I was strictly concentrating on straight up historical bolt action kind of thing. I guess with the new armies coming to play, the nice thing about this is it's not just me and Bill choosing new armies to play. We've got
everybody.
10 or so players that are starting up, maybe even more. Hopefully there's a couple more guys who are going to sign up. Everybody is literally choosing a new army or new kind of faction of their own army already, and they're starting it up, which I think is absolutely awesome for a slow grow. Especially starting at low points, and there's a couple of players, kids who are getting involved in it. They want to jump into bolt action. I know I've done some demos with a couple of them already, so it's really captured their imagination and intrigue into the game for community building too, right? So it'll be nice to see these guys at these events and pass on exactly what we've talked about here about, the games and units and this and that, and get feedback. So I'm pretty excited for that. Definitely for that for this year. It will be a pretty busy year, I would say, for both of us in either systems that we're concentrating on.
Absolutely. And even for just the listener, you can still follow along and jump in and go along with us with this slow grow, because the whole thing is to get X amount of your army point wise worked on in a specific time period. So if you want to follow along, you can always use tag on all the any pictures you have on Instagram and stuff, and it'll pop up for us, so we can actually check out your armies. And you send us a message. Hey, you've got 500 points of Canadians you're working on or whatever. We love to see all the different people jumping in. It's easy for you to stay kind of accountable because you want to be part of it, and yet you can kind of watch how all the pictures we'll be taking and showing our actual work, and then game nights too. So
yeah, and that's the Instagram hashtag Trident Wargaming, right?
Yeah.
So check that out. Tend to get a lot of pictures on that stuff, so it's pretty great. Yeah, I think we're good for the first episode.
Yeah.
So hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you guys for following, sharing, commenting, checking us out, and any kind of support that you'd like to give. We do have, we always have a lot of people chiming in and asking if we need help with any events and whatnot too, which is great, and we appreciate it. So keep up the good work. Keep up, building, painting, playing. That's our motto. So we will be doing the same. And then I guess we'll have some time to start our projects and share with you our progress and all that fun jazz that we tend to do. But this year is more of a dedication. I know between me and Bill, we've talked a lot about it and made a game plan. So we'll definitely be doing that, sharing that progress, sharing community events, sharing just local events, from all the little groups that we're into. So, and share your guys' stuff with us too, right? We love seeing your guys' miniatures. We love seeing your conversions, paint jobs, everything. So by all means, and any questions or anything, hit us up. You know, we're definitely down to discuss things and whatnot. Or if you have ideas, ideas of a topic you'd like to talk about, you can always reach out to us as well. So, but yeah, I think that's pretty good. And I guess we will see you all you guys on the tabletop next time.
All right, troops. Catch you on the front.